the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, bringing you what has to be one of the most intricate dwarf defensive geometries I've ever seen. And this is brought to you by our good friend Woof Wowazg. He's sent in replays before, though it's been a while. And he has what he told me was kind of a bomb army, where the whole purpose of it to have maximum number of bombs and satchel charges is a fun build that he came up with, and came up against this vampire build, and we're going to see how he does. This is Vlad von Karstein leading a bunch of zombies. There are crypt horrors in the mix, and then a lot of graveguard with great weapons. This is meant to be an anti-armor, anti-dwarf army in this sense, so you get lots of anti-armor from the crypt horrors. Vlad is very tanky, and then you're going to end up with the Sternsmen and lots of graveguard with great weapons and zombies just for soaking stuff up. Looks like immediately the gyrocopters are going to come in behind, and looks like they're targeting Vlad. So they're going to try and do as much damage to him as possible. That's definitely a good idea. You want to get rid of that guy's regen as soon as possible, because he can regen quite a bit of health. So there's a goblobber. I'm going to click the ground here because I'm getting a little bit of weirdness with the debug camera. There we go. Let's see. So dwarf warriors, there's several miners with the satchel charges, 5 of them in total. Then there's dwarf warriors, but then the meat of the army is really up here in the air. There's a mortis engine back here running away from the gyrocopter. It may want to just try and stay underneath the gyrocopter. It might be able to kind of slowly eat away at it. It'll take a long time because the gyrocopter doesn't have a lot of unit models. But that may be its best bet. It obviously didn't want to get close enough to several of these units. So the goblobber is just firing away, and the goblobber is a very effective unit of artillery. Like the gyrocopter's still just firing away at Vlad. They've picked away a decent amount of health from him. Look at these formations. Very, very interesting the way he's set up here. He's very dedicated to this dwarf defensive geometry here. So here comes the satchel charges. Let's get a view as the vampires try and charge in. They're going to bring their graveguard with great weapons up. It looks like initially the zombie's going to take a little bit of the bombing here. And gyrocopter's just firing away in the background, but yeah. So here comes the vampire assault. They are being met with a lot of splosions. I like lots of splosions, by the way. In case anybody is wondering, Vlad is having a really hard time here. He is getting the crap shot out of him, and it's actually knocking him over. And probably making it harder for him to get around. So with that many gyrocopters, they are causing a significant amount of damage to Vlad. The front line is just dwarf warriors. It's going to be held up slightly by a Thane and Grombrindle. Grombrindle's being hit by Vlad's ability right now, which is taking away a great deal of his attack, if not all of it. Almost all of it. But the gyrocopters are going to come up, and this could be a really good bombing run type scenario too, because the vampires are so blobbed up. Looks like they're going to still just fire into the mix. And remember, brimstone guns are anti-armor. They're also or actually they're anti-large. No, they're anti-armor. So it's armor piercing, and it says anti-large, so I don't know if they have a specific anti-large bonus. That's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at that real quick on the missile damage. It just says armor piercing, so I'm not really sure why it says anti-large. Maybe it's just their armor piercing tends to do well against large targets, which tend to be armored, I guess. I don't know. So it looks like some zombies being spawned up here to stop the goblobber. You can see that in general, the vampire's just trying to hack his way through the lines. With the graveguard being tanked by the zombies and the crypt horrors, they very well could do it. The vampires have a ton of armor piercing, and the dwarves didn't bring a particularly powerful infantry build. There's no slayers to contend with the crypt horrors. There's not even a lot of missiles to contend with the crypt horrors. It's really up to the gyrocopters, and they are all focus firing on the mortis engine right now. But it's being hit by the invocation to hack. Vlad is almost dead. He's almost dead. He's completely done with his regen. So these gyrocopters caused an immense amount of damage to Vlad. The Raise the Dead zombies are really coming in now. There is a ranger with great weapons back here, and keeping that unit alive where it could get some volleys in would be great. The rangers with great weapons are a very, very handy unit. And I'm wondering if he's dropped the bombs yet on the gyrocopter. I don't believe he has. Saw something here I wanted to check out. Magic resistance, okay, yeah. I think he... I can't tell if he just dropped a round of bombs there or not. Mortis Engine gets shot to death. So, it's looking like it's going to be a battle of attrition here between the vampires and the dwarves. Grombrindle's still alive, albeit he's pretty beat up. But the vampire counts have taken a pretty significant beating through here too. There's the bombs right there, folks. That is quite the bombing run. So the gyrocopter's getting a pretty decent bombing off there. 42, 103 kills on one, 58, 21. So gyrocopter's getting some decent success. The miners with blasting charges, and then a quite damaged Grombrindle were some of the only units left. If Grombrindle doesn't get knocked around too bad, he's going to do an immense amount of damage. He's got magic damage and armor piercing, which he doesn't need armor piercing per se for Cryptors, but he's going to do a lot of damage. Looks like back here one of the miners with blasting charges is regrouped in the woods. Maybe intentionally kept out of sight here. Nah, it's being moved back because having one unit on the ground will keep the gyrocopters from routing, and it looks like some of the gyrocopters, out of bombs, out of ammo, they've now come into melee, which is probably not ideal for them. They're going to come into melee. They actually have pretty decent melee damage. I think it's the melee damage. Let me remind myself. Yeah, they've got really good weapon strength, is what I should say. Their melee attack is none too stellar, but their weapon damage is really quite good. So regroup dwarf warriors. The minor, these are Ulthar's raiders actually. So there's a few miners with blasting charges that had a satchel charge or two left there. They threw it in. See some burning vampires. And the dwarfs making a brave last stand. I even saw a gyrocopter go down there. There's Grombrindle taking down a Cryptor. Taking down another Cryptor. That's like 2 Cryptors straight. Looks like they got the vampires crumbling at this point because of the loss of leadership. Since Vlad was absent in this later game fight, it's going to be very helpful. The Sternsman, though, is still alive, and that's going to be a tough unit. The Ulthar's Raiders have used all their ammo, so they're working in close quarters. It even calls them close quarters infantry. Interesting. They've actually gotten a ton of kills, so they've got some work done. A lot of the zombies are crumbling, and there's a few more blasting charges. There's a dwarf warrior here that's in pretty good health, and it looks like the vampires are going to be outlasted. I like the repeated charges of the gyrocopters bringing in their heavy weapon damage and melee, but not necessarily leaving them in fights too long. So there goes the Cryptors, and the vampire infantry looks to be crumbling at a pretty sturdy rate here. Looks like they're going to disintegrate, potentially. Graveguard with great weapons, definitely a dangerous unit for the dwarves, unless the dwarves bring the right counters. So I can see where the vampire count wanted to pick the Graveguard with great weapons, because dwarves don't have cavalry, they can't get around quickly, they rely on missiles. And because of Raise the Dead, he probably felt confident that he could deal with missiles and allow the Graveguard to make the most of their armor-piercing abilities. At least I could assume that that's why he made that pick. A lot of people don't like the cost, the extra cost that come with the Graveguard great weapons, and they'd rather just get cheaper Graveguard and then combine them with a specialty unit like Cryptors. And that might make sense too, in a lot of times. But yeah, looks like Wowaz is going to take a victory home there in an interesting battle up against the vampire count. So that's a pretty cool army. I like the bomb army. I like how people have fun with the builds sometimes. Warhammer. That's a lot of kills on the Ulthar's Raiders. That was a pretty sweet use of that unit. And then the gyrocopters were a lot of fun too. And appreciate Wolf Wowaz and Clone here for the fun battle. Hope you all enjoyed this one tonight. Appreciate you watching. If you want to see more and you want to stay in touch with the newest videos, always make sure and click that logo down in the bottom right and subscribe. It will give you notifications if you want to set everything up. You can see when the new videos come out if you want to keep up with the latest. Appreciate MSI sponsoring the work I'm doing on this channel. Really appreciate their help, and looking forward to some of the stuff they're going to help me with in the future. Like I said, I got some big announcements about that coming up, and I hope you all are excited for it. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you soon.